Welcome to a special series of This Week in Canton City Schools, where we will focus on the mental health and wellness of our kids and families. I'm Jacqueline Power, the broadcast media instructor here at the Timken Career Campus of McKinley High School, and your host today. The Canton City School District continues to partner with the Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Agency. This agency provides a myriad of resources to the Stark County community and, most importantly, to our students within CCSD. Each month, we will feature resources and strategies to help the mental well-being of our young people. On this episode, we are talking with Joe French, CEO of Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health, to discuss the history of C&A and to introduce some of the general resources the agency can provide for the families of the Canton City School District. Sit tight, all of that starts right now. As we continue to look for ways to have a healthy, happy, balanced lifestyle, there is no greater need than to work with our mental health and wellness to meet the unique needs of our changing world around us. I know for me, daily stressors can build up over time, and I'm not always great at acknowledging those moments, and I find myself a little less grounded and a little less balanced. This series of shows with the Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health Agency will feature all kinds of different ways to address some of the common setbacks we face today. On this particular episode, we have Joe French, CEO of Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health, here to talk about C&A and how we can utilize the resources within the agency to work on some of the growing trends with our young people and their mental health and well-being. So thank you so much for being here today. So as a starting point, I believe it's valuable to know a little bit about you and your background. So tell me about yourself, where'd you grow up, your career?
Sure. So I have a kind of an unusual path to mental health, but to me it made perfect sense. So my background is in education. I have a bachelor's in elementary ed, and I have a master's in early childhood education. I happened to be serving on the board for Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health at the time, and our CEO announced that he was retiring after 34 years at the helm. Right, and so I talked to a couple board members and said, hey, what do you think about me throwing my hat in the ring as a potential candidate? And they're like, I think that would be a great idea. And really what I was trying to focus on is the fact that if children aren't socially and emotionally ready to learn, academics will never happen. So that's basically what I said during my interview, was that we really got to focus on that mental and behavioral health pieces before we can really start focusing on academics, especially somebody coming from the early childhood world. Teaching very much self-regulation, things like that right from the very beginning was so important, and I just saw it, that crossover into school. And so that's kind of the path that I took. It's not a usual one in the field of education, but I saw there's such a need, and really from an educational point of view, understanding the needs of our kids every day and how that has completely changed over the years.
Absolutely. I think as a high school teacher, let me say I appreciate that early onset, like thinking about the needs of the whole child. And I know with Canton City Schools, much the same. And we sit a lot of times in our teacher-based teams and really the staff development pieces that we do, because we must look at what are the barriers prior to maybe some of those academic barriers. And I think it's a perfect way to blend into your current position. So how did you originally become affiliated? So you said you were a board member, so maybe tell me about that.
I was. So being an early childhood person, they really were looking for that expertise on their board. And so I said, absolutely. Again, I saw the natural progression of what we were doing in the early childhood world and then what Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health was trying to accomplish with their mission. And so I just said, absolutely, let's be a part of that and really focus on that early piece. Again, if we don't get it right in the first 5 years, we're going to be facing that for years to come. So we got to get it right.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So you've been the CEO of C&A for the past 7 years. Tell me a little bit about your specific roles and responsibilities that you have now as the CEO. So to transition from educator, along with being a board member, and now CEO of really a major agency that is a part of the fibers of our Stark County. So tell me about those roles.
Absolutely. So first of all, I want to say that I really believe that our staff are the heroes. It's not me. I try to get out of their way, right? So I feel like my role is really to set them up for success. So what are the things that you need? What are some of the barriers that you're facing so that we can eliminate those so that you can do the best work that you possibly can? So I, of course, look over budgets and, development of the agency, and we look at strategic planning and all of those things to say, where are we going to be? Not anymore. It used to be with strategic planning, you look 5, 10 years down the road. Now it's like, where are we 1 to 3 years from now? Because we got to stay current. We got to stay up to date on everything that's going on, not only from the federal level, but also at our state and local level, meeting the needs of our community partners like Canton City Schools. And that's ever changing. It's ever changing, and so we have to be a part of that. The other thing is making sure that we have the right people in the right roles, right? And making sure that if you're prefer to work with the older kids, then we want to make sure that you have the opportunity to do that. And then we have the staff that really want to specialize in those early childhood years, and then we have those that are in between. So I think part of my role is making sure that people are fitting in the right role to do the best work that they possibly can.
Speaking of change, and if you coming from the field of education, you absolutely understand change is just part of the landscape. So this is a natural transition. It absolutely is for you to go from, and it sounds like you're using some of those same strategies we use in the field of education to go right into that. So being in your current role for nearly 7 years, how has behavioral health changed?
It's changed immensely over the past 7 years. So when I first started, we were doing handwritten notes, to do your contact notes with your clients, and also making sure that you're on track on their goals and so forth. That was all handwritten. Now we have electronic health records, and talk about a major change for our staff in the first couple years. That was back in 2015, 2016 that we were making that change. Then along comes something called behavioral health redesign. And so the state said, we think we can do things differently, as I'm sure in the educational world we face. I always say the pendulum is always swinging, right? You just never know which way it's going to swing. And so we had to change some of the way we did programming. Things that Medicaid and private insurances paid for in the past were no longer going to be services that we could provide. Well, then trying to communicate that to our community partners is also difficult. And now we're in the midst of something called Ohio Rise. And so they're looking at ways to serve their most deep-in clients, the ones that I call the $1 million clients, that basically once the system has invested, they would have probably invested at least $1 million in these kids, getting them the right services and getting them on a good path for adulthood. So that has continuously changed. And so we have to always be on top of, so how does that impact us financially? How does that impact us from a service and program point of view? And so it's constantly changing. I would say, just like in education, the one thing that is certain is change.
Absolutely. And I have such a deep appreciation for those parallels. And there really is. I mean, when you're talking human beings, and then you add in kind of the political impacts and the state agency type impacts. So I absolutely.
And funding. The funding continues.
Absolutely.
Everybody thinks they can save dollars in one way, but then they don't realize that you're impacting a human's life.
Correct.
You're impacting their service. You're impacting where they're going to go for the rest of their life. And I think that sometimes we lose sight of the fact that these are humans that have had a service, and now you're saying that service is no longer, and they found that service to be valuable to them. So I just think it's really difficult, and I agree with you. I think the political climate, as we know, every 4 years can change, and so we have to be a part of that change and trying to look down the road. Like I said, we used to do 5 to 10. Now we're like, let's just look 1 to 3 and see how we can improve our services and our ability to serve our community.
I think the here and now, you kind of focus on what the here and now. So thank you for opening up and being so candid in that way. So before we get into the specifics of the agency, I would like to take a look back at a few of the 2022 McKinley High School seniors and their advice to our youth.
It's important. It's not something you can joke about. A lot of people go through that stuff without us knowing. And when they express themselves, and sometimes people joke around, it gives them a different a different way to look at stuff. So if somebody tries to talk to you or reach out to you, you need to take them a little serious and not joke about it.
We include everyone. We look for those that seem like they may appear to be alone or appear like they could use a friend to talk to. We try to make sure everyone feels like they have someone to connect to.
We have learned that it shouldn't be a secret and you shouldn't struggle alone. You might not notice the signs on the outside, so it's important to check on your friends and family and make sure they're doing okay.
I understand C&A works with children from ages 0 to 24. So let's start off by talking about your office locations.
Okay, so we have 4 office locations to serve our clients throughout Stark County. So one is what we call our Shipley office, which is downtown Canton on 2nd Street. We also have one in Belden. I always refer to that as, if you know where Rooster's Cafe is in Belden Village, we're in that plaza right there. It's probably our busiest office. And then we also have an office in Alliance. It's located in the Chase Bank building right on State Street. And then finally, we have our Plain local office. Plain is our newest office. We opened that in about 2019, pre-COVID, not knowing.
Perfect timing.
Yeah, and so that is located right next to the library on the Plain School campus at the Glen Oak High School on that campus. And just trying to make sure that we serve all of our communities and making sure that people can access services wherever they live. And so we try very hard to be centrally located throughout the Stark County to serve our clients.
Yeah, I think geographic location, you think of everything from your grocery stores to gas stations, everything that becomes a part of the fiber of who you are.
Absolutely.
So this is just one more awesome resource for people that geographically now is more accessible.
We can serve you wherever you need to be served.
And you serve a wide range of ages, so
Sure.
Some may think infant to 5, huh? So what can you do for such small children? I know as an educator some of those key milestones, but tell us a little bit about those services for those younger part of the population that's 0 to 5.
Yes, it is interesting. A lot of people say, so what kind of behaviors would a baby have? But if you think about it from birth, cause and effect. I drop my rattle, I cry a little, you pick it up. And I also know that, okay, if I cry, you're going to feed me. You might come and pick me up. So those are all cause and effect. Those are behavior triggers in your brain that starts to say, okay, but what happens if they aren't being met and those needs being met? So we really do a lot of work with birth to 5 and making sure where are we at developmentally. So a parent might say, I think I'm having some behavior problems. Is there a developmental delay? Is it truly an understanding issue? Maybe the child doesn't understand what you're looking for. All of those kind of things go into us trying very hard to prevent a child from getting a diagnosis. We want to do everything we can prior to. So we do a lot of prevention work with our birth to 5. We also do parent education, which is really important. We believe very firmly at C&A, you cannot impact a child without impacting their family, and whatever that family unit may look like, right? Again, in education, we know families don't come in the same
They're not
box.
prepackaged.
Right, they're different. And so we have to really embrace that diversity and also help the parents understand what role they play in their child's development and behaviors and that piece around mental health. Positive mental health, making sure that you feel secure as a young person. All of those kind of things go into our birth to 5 programming.
So if I have a little one, could be school age, that grade
Sure.
school age now. So let's talk about your school-based consultation services and what do some of those services entail? So we kind of started with our 0 to 5. Now let's pick up there when they start school and let's talk about the school age.
Absolutely. So a teacher, guidance counselor, a principal, anybody within the building can make a referral for a kiddo to be seen. And we have what we call, as you said, school-based consultation. So we're in the school building. Typically, it could be anywhere from 1 day to 5 days of the week. And then that referral will come to our therapist. It is a licensed therapist. And they will meet with that client up to 3 hours total. So a client may only come down for 20 minutes the first time. But we can see them up to 3 hours without providing a diagnosis. So it could be something, general anxiety, I got a test, I don't know what to do. Our therapist can give them some tools for their toolbox and send them on their way. There can also be deeper end issues. And our therapist would be able to say, let's open this client to ongoing services so that we can see them more often than that limited 3 hours. And what's nice is we're in the building. So again, when something comes up, we're there to handle that immediately and not have to wait. So we're really proud of our partnerships. We're in 55 different buildings throughout Stark County. Canton City is absolutely one of our partners and has been for many, many years. And so we're really proud to be able to be in the building providing that service when the service is needed.
That on-the-spot care.
Yes,
so,
absolutely. And that goes from anywhere from kindergarten all the way through high school, through seniors. So we're in all different types of buildings. And again, it goes back to what we talked about in the first segment, where we were really trying to hone in on what's your area of expertise and putting you in the building that you would do the best in.
Yeah, it would be no different for me being a high school teacher, and you would shift me to the younger ones. I would probably... Maybe, I don't know. I always say the big kids, I can totally do all the hormones and big kids, but boy, the little ones and bathroom breaks and washing of hands, and I'm like, I don't know, there's a lot of you and only one of me.
Yes.
So that comfort level.
Yes.
So, and in our homes, we hope to have, that comfort level as well. So I understand you also offer some home-based services. Tell me a little bit about those programs, the multi-systemic therapy for problem sexual behaviors. So tell me a little bit about this.
Sure, I'm going to talk a little bit first about our case management and our qualified mental health specialists that can go into the homes as well.
Okay.
So, and then I'll talk a little bit about MST. So the QMHSs, which is what we call them, we acronym everything in education and in the mental health world, but that stands for Qualified Mental Health Specialist.
Okay.
They do case management work. They go where therapists can't. So they go into the home and say, let's look at your structure. A lot of times parents don't even understand the importance of a schedule and how important that schedule really is about consistency for kids and having some control over what my day is going to look like. I know at 8 o'clock we're doing this, at 9 o'clock we're doing this. Mm-hmm. It really gives some consistency to them. And so our case managers, our QMHSs can go into the homes, they can come into the schools and provide that service. They go anywhere in the community. So as a parent, you say, hey, I really would like some extra help, but I don't want you to come to the house. How about we're going to be out and about. Can I meet you at the library? Yes, we'll meet you wherever you need to be met. As for the MST program, which stands for Multisystemic Therapy, that is an intensive home-based program. So the therapist provides both the therapy and the case management services. And they're the only person working with that family. Because again, we know when there's too many systems in place, somebody's going to tell you to do this, and this person might tell you to do that, and so you sit there and go, what do I do? And so we only have one person working with the family, and it is intensive home-based, meaning the family has to be part of the therapy, because we're trying to change the culture of that family and that home.
Again, really similar parallel
Yes.
to education when you talk about setting up those boundaries and parameters and
Absolutely.
consistency. So across a building, think of like in a great big high school like McKinley
Yes.
High School, kind of setting up some consistency so when kids come in the doors, you know the expectations. No different in the home. Let's know the expectations and let's move forward with
and
those.
let's set systems in place so that everybody knows what that system is
Yes.
and can be successful in that system. Really, I think sometimes we need to get back to, like I said, you knew when your bedtime was.
Yes.
You knew what time you had to be in bed. You knew before that you had to do,
Whatever chores.
Yes, chores. You had to have your homework done. You had dinner, and then you did, maybe bath time and those
Right.
sometimes you got a book read, whatever the case may be. But you knew your system.
Your schedule.
And how that was going to look. Parents sometimes forget that consistency is so important because we're rushing around doing so much that we have to remember the importance of consistency for kids.
I even know with my big kids at home, so I have a 12-year and almost 15-year-old, and you get out of that younger phase and you think, okay, well, we can lessen up. Mm-hmm. But I'm telling you, when I have consistent like meal times, they really do kind of crave that.
Yes.
Maybe because they were used to it when they were younger. So when we look at your website, I see that C&A offers some very specialized programs. I would like to discuss some of those programs.
All right, so we have a wide variety of services and programs to offer. Actually, it's ironic. We were just doing orientation yesterday, and I had somebody in orientation say, I didn't realize you offered so much.
Yeah.
A lot of times people just assume it's come in, sit down on a couch, and talk to a therapist.
Right, that very
when
traditional.
There's so
right.
many other programs that we offer. So case management, as we talked about, is one. We have a program called Day Treatment. So Day Treatment is an educational program that is located at our Shipley office. We can have no more than 32 kids on the floor. Those kids get specialized therapy. They have a degreed teacher in the classroom, and they also have a behavior interventionist in the classroom. So a school can refer a kid to our day treatment program, and typically they have a trauma diagnosis. Something has happened in their past that has caused them some type of trauma, and we work on that trauma. Ultimately, our goal is to get them back into a typical school environment.
Okay.
And so I think that's a unique program. We're the only ones in Stark County that offers that therapy piece and really hone in on why that behavior is present, and then working on ways that they can take away those behaviors, ways to cope, and making sure they're able to get back into a typical school environment. We also have our like I said, typical school-based kind of services. We also do some work around substance use disorder and helping kids who are kind of masking their mental health by using. We do not provide any type of residential treatment, so we're more working with kids that start to dabble with alcohol use, vaping, especially around marijuana, THC, and helping them understand that that doesn't take away the mental health piece. And so we work very hard with our clients to understand that there's other ways of coping besides using. I would tell you, it's a surprising statistic, but about 50% of our middle school and high school kids typically use some kind of substance use disorder because they are, again, trying to mask that mental health piece. And so it's important for them to understand that they don't need it. And but that's a whole nother thing in your brain, right?
Right.
So we work on that. But we also have our medical department. So so we have our medical department is located primarily at Belden, but they also go out to Alliance, and they can prescribe psychotropic drugs. So that means if a kid has ADHD, or if they are schizophrenic or have some anxiety, depression, they can see one of our prescribers, and we can get them in pretty quickly these days, between 3 to maybe 10 days at the most, to be able to get in and see a prescriber, and making sure that they are on the right medication, the right dosage, all of those kind of things. So that's a unique feature that we offer to our clients if they so need. But we also offer, like I said, we talked about school-based. What we really try to do is if you come in with a need, we try to match your need with the appropriate program. And we find that a lot of our kids are in that middle school age.
Yes.
And so one of the things that we try to offer to that middle school and early high school is a peer. We're one of the few agencies in the state of Ohio that offer a peer for mental health services. A lot of times you'll hear peer being referred to with SUD services or the substance use disorder. But we have a peer who has to be under the age of 27 and is peer certified and has had a lived experience themselves. So when somebody comes, a young person, and says, well, I can't do this, they can say, yes, you can, because I did it.
Yeah.
I did it. And so they don't necessarily always want to hear it from a 50-year-old like me, but they will respond to somebody their own age. And the peer program is incredible and has great results. So that's another unique program that we do offer to our clients.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of research around, again, the education piece, right? That when kids hear it from the adults in the environment, that's one thing. And and there are a lot of kids that will respond in a positive way to that. But on the flip side of that, when you've got a peer, so maybe a senior that's going into, I know we partner with our middle schools, and we have some teams of high school students that will go in and do some of that peer-to-peer, whether it's like on the bullying front or, just adjusting to like that middle school piece of changing classes, and you're in a different building than you were for, several years in grade school. So the impact seen just in that way here in-house, I can only imagine how much more that effect is when you can sit down and somebody says, oh, well, I can't do that. There's no way. Oh, no. I can tell you it works because I have done it and I'm living proof that it works. And I think the validity in that allows that child then to say, oh, just give them just a minute to kind of reflect and know that they're living proof that this obstacle that's in their way or they feel like is in their way isn't a permanent obstacle.
Absolutely. One of the things that we say around C&A is that your today does not have to dictate your tomorrow.
Yes.
So today could look crappy, right? Life happens to all of us, and we have bad days.
Right.
But we realize, because we're able to bounce back, it's that resiliency piece that's so important. I always kind of make the analogy of resiliency as you stretch a rubber band.
Yes.
Sometimes the rubber band stretches right back to its original form, and other times it takes some time. It's that same kind of concept with resiliency in kids. I love the fact that you have a senior that's working with a middle school kid because there is anxiety, there is fear, there is those kind of things. And to take away some of that helps kids breathe and say, okay, it's going to be okay. It really is going to be okay.
Not just because some adult told me it's going to be okay in my school that
Somebody
works here all
it.
year, every year. It's somebody that has advanced to that next step and that there's light at the end of the tunnel, kind of that concept of.
Absolutely, and kids need that trusted adult. They need us too.
Yes.
But that one-on-one with a peer makes the world of difference because kids need to know, I can come to you and tell you what's going on in my world, and you're going to accept it and be okay with it and help me get the help that I might need. But how powerful it is when it comes from a peer, just like the messages that you showed. Coming straight from a peer to peer, we know is the best way to get information out to our young people today.
And continue to need those professionals.
Yes.
So in doing some research and calling into any medical office these days, I tried to get my daughters into their dentist. And they're like, oh, we're out of a hygienist. So the dentist is doing this. Oh, wow, okay. So there is a real need. There's a national shortage of those available therapists and clinicians. So please tell us about why it's so critical that these roles get filled within your agency and, how are you meeting those challenges?
So one of the things I would say is if anybody's interested in a position, please reach out to us. We have a website, recruiting@childandadolescent.org. Send your resume. We would love to talk to you. I think the challenge really is people not going into the field. Because it's tough work. I mean, when you really sit down and think about it, you're dealing with a problem every single time somebody walks in the door. And but we try very hard to promote self-care, flexibility. We provide a very flexible schedule. We have great benefits. Actually, we were talking to somebody the other day and said, we can't beat your benefits. You have incredible benefits. We got to take away some worries from our staff in whatever way we can. So again, I would say, we have some great openings, and what's happening is kids are going unserved. We're having to say, I'm sorry, but we don't have somebody to see your child. That hurts all of us because we're in the field to help. We want to get kids into the service that they need so that they can be successful ongoing. And it's not just C&A. It's across the entire state. It's across our county. We have great partners with our local mental health board, Starkmar. They provide as many resources as they can, ideas to help us kind of battle this need, but it's an ongoing need. And again, if anybody's watching and they're interested in a position,
feel a passion, feel a calling.
We will also, if you start out as a case manager and you're interested in going on and getting your degree as a licensed LPC, a licensed practicing counselor, we'll be more than happy to help you with that education piece as well. So again, just like with the kids, we try to take away every obstacle we can so that our staff can be successful and meet their career goals as well.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-way street. So thank you so much for doing such a great job and kicking off our series with all of this information. And we look forward to hearing from some of your staff on each topic each month. For more information, you can visit the C&A website at www.childandadolescent.org, or you can call the C&A office, the Belton office, at 330-433-6075. Thank you so much to Dan Mucci as well, the Marketing and Development Coordinator, Office of Mission Advancement of Child and Adolescent Behavioral Health, for helping coordinate this episode and all the future episodes in this partnership. Please visit our website at ccstv11.com, where you can get information on all of our shows and watch us on your favorite device. We will see you next time.